We have been studying the tokenization side of the XRP ledger for quite some time now. As you guys have been watching more and more value get added to the network. We're now over $355 plus million, almost at $356 million. And this is up about 9.24% in the last 30 days. RWA holders are now starting to grow a little bit. We're at 4+% in the last 30 days. Stablecoin holders also growing a bit, but for the most part, the main thing to look at here is just the tokenized value on the XRP ledger. This has been starting to grow, and even more recently, we saw that big clip get added to the XRP ledger back in, I know that this is saying July, but it was more so in August when we started to really kind of see it get added. But, it just goes to show us that if we are really watching this and we're being a little bit more patient, there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that we're just not aware of, right? Like this value that got added to the XRP ledger, this clip was already there back in the beginning of July. It just wasn't getting tracked until August, like late August. So again, today, how much value is really tied to the XRP ledger? We don't know, right? And we probably won't know for sure at any point in time. We probably won't get live updates, right? We're not going to have a live update exactly of how much money is on the XRP ledger, but I would argue that there's going to be billions and potentially even trillions of dollars on the XRP ledger over the coming, give or take 12 months. I think 1 year, right? 1 year from now, there could potentially be billions or even trillions of dollars tied to some of these networks. Now, when it comes to the XRP ledger, we've talked about XRP being worth trillions and trillions of dollars. The biggest sign that some of these networks like the XRP ledger will be worth trillions of dollars just comes from tokenization. Now, talking about that, we did get a big update from the staff software engineer at RippleXDev. And here we have a small Tuesday surprise, XRP Ledger XLS standards with a fresh new look. Now, this was from September 9th. When we're looking into this, okay, the biggest thing to look at is multi-purpose tokens. Okay, that's the biggest thing that we have been waiting for, because multi-purpose tokens are the most important amendment right now in front of us that we have. Okay, and the reason for this is because of what it does, not for XRP, not for the network, but for tokenized assets. Do you guys remember those videos from Apex back in 2024? It's okay if you don't. I have them here. We're going to watch them again. I know that you guys don't like me doing this, but I want to rewatch these just because I want you guys to realize how important this multi-purpose token amendment really is. Now, here we have from Good Morning Crypto, must watch Ripple launching multi-purpose tokens on the XRP ledger in Q3 of 2024. Now, looking into this, we do have a little bit of a breakdown of what this will introduce. So key capabilities of MPT on the XRP ledger: access on-chain real-time data, flexibility to adapt as needed automatically, freezing clawbacks, and non-transferable tokens. Key use cases include treasury bonds, airline credits, art, collectibles, university certificates, and a lot more as well. But listen closely to what Jazzy Cooper is saying. This is the head of DeFi products at Ripple. Check it out.
Potential advancements in XRP ledger technology to better support real world assets. So one example is, a token type made specifically for RWA called multi-purpose tokens that allows for storage of metadata directly with the asset. There's a few other advantages in terms of scalability, flexibility as well, but we're really trying to increase the suitability for the XRP ledger for this use case. To really lower the barrier to entry for these institutions.
And that's exactly what they are focused on, right? Lowering the barrier to entry for all of these major institutional players, because that's what they're focused on. That's the biggest thing that they want on the XRP ledger, is institutional players bringing not just billions of dollars. No, these institutional players will bring trillions of dollars, but we get there through the MPT, amendment. Now, again, over here, it's a little bit more, it's challenging to see which ones are final or not. If you really want to watch these in real time, get voted on, the XRPscan.com website does have the MPT tokens over here, and this is currently not enabled. There's 28 out of 35 votes currently voting. We need to be over the threshold, so we're not there yet. But I do think that this is something that we will see get at it very soon. And this has been getting voted on for quite some time. So we're still waiting. We're still watching this closely. And the reason why is because of all of the capabilities that this will add. Even back here, this is again going back to like the new year, right? The beginning of the new year. This is January 18th. This is from XRP Drops. Again, this is from David Schwartz, really kind of giving us the breakdown of MPTs and what this amendment can do for the XRP ledger. Check it out.
Multi-purpose tokens fix a sort of technical limitation with the XRP ledger. Currently, the XRP ledger has several different types of tokens. XRP is its own thing that follows its own rules. It has finite, predefined divisibility. There are NFTs, which work well for like non-fungible tokens, that represent artwork or things like that. There's issued assets, which work great for money. They're great for like things that are infinitely divisible and where the quantity is the only thing you care about, right? If I want to know how many dollars or yen you have, I just want a number. But there is a sort of intermediate zone of assets that are not well served by any of those asset types. A good example might be concert tickets. If you modeled concert tickets as NFTs, you're going to have to create thousands of NFTs for every concert, and it's kind of hard to understand that they're all tickets to the same concert. If you did them as an issued asset, as a fungible asset, well, what if somebody gets 0.9975 of a ticket? It shows up at the venue. You're probably going to have to let them in. But what if like 1,000 people all have 0.9? What if some guy just keeps buying fractions of tickets just to like go? So you don't want them to be modeled by any of the existing token standards on the XRP ledger. What this multi-purpose token standard has is precisely defined divisibility, and the token class is an object. So for example, if they're all tickets to the same concert, you can actually have an object with an identity that says these are all tickets to the same concert. Whatever they are, if they're dollars and cents or yen or whatever they represent, you can actually have a data object on the ledger that explains what that is. And that's currently not possible with any of the current token standards on the XRP ledger.
And again, this is exactly why this amendment is so important, especially for the future of the XRP ledger. I mean, listen, I understand that we have, a massive amount of money tied back to the XRP ledger, but this is a very small amount of money in retrospect to just how big the tokenization world is becoming. Now, if we're thinking about this, they already have use cases lined up on the XRP ledger through the MPT amendment. For an example, here we have a big update from Ripple XDev. We have, here's how Fort Stock 1 is using the XRP Ledger's multi-purpose token standard to turn idle warehouse inventory into usable collateral, helping close this is a $2.5 to $5 trillion trade finance gap. So Fort Stock is turning warehouse receipts into programmable financial assets in order to bridge physical goods to digital finance. Fort Stock needs more than tokenization. Fort Stock needs MPTs. So why XRP Ledger's multi-purpose token is a breakthrough? Embedded, legally relevant metadata, warrant number, expiry, right, receipt hash, directly on-chain, capture the full life cycle of an asset issuance and also collateralization to settlement. No reliance on complex external contracts as well. Forstock tested it earlier this month. Forstock minted a warehouse receipt MPT on the XRP Ledger DevNet, issued the token with detailed memo fields, transferred it to the creditor wallet, collateral pledge, burned it on return to close the life cycle. All logic was executed and traceable on chain. This unlocks more than digital documentation. It unlocks liquidity. Tokenized warehouse receipts can connect to on-chain liquidity like ROUSD. Borrowers, real-time financing based on inventory, not credit history. Lenders, transparent tokens backed by physical goods. The result? Businesses in emerging markets close the trade finance gap. The XRP Ledger provides the compliance-first, fee-efficient rails to scale globally. And again, if we're thinking about this, what's next? Well, they hope to expand MPT use to debt instruments, loan tranches, performance tokens, partnering with real warehouses and regulated lenders, building programmable finance on real assets, not speculation, one warehouse at a time. And if we're thinking about what MPTs can do, guys, this can unlock access to trillions and trillions of dollars worth of RWAs. Yes, Fort Stock is one of the only ones out there right now around the XRP Ledger, in my opinion, that is really kind of focused on trade finance. I love to see this because if you guys know me, I've been following XDC. They've been absolutely locked in on trade finance for so long. This $2.5 to $5 trillion gap needs to be met. And projects like this that are coming to the XRP ledger that are already tapped in with the multi-purpose token standard really kind of shows us exactly what this standard will do for the XRP ledger. But also, if we're thinking about that, the World Economic Forum also recently highlighted the XRP ledger as a leading network for debt tokenization, acknowledging its potential to digitize real-world assets while boosting transparency and efficiency. This is a huge plus one at a time where the MPT standard could potentially be added to the XRP ledger, which will also lead to debt instruments being tapped in, because exactly what Fort Stock is trying to do here, which is tapping into debt instruments using the MPT standard, that's what a lot of big companies and users will want to do. So I love to see this, and also having that pledge from the World Economic Forum definitely highlights just how efficient this is. But then also on top of this, we go back to the recent announcement from Ripple, right? This was that article that they were talking about. This is through the custody platform that they created. And they said by 2030, 10% of the global assets are expected to be tokenized. And we already went over this, right? We talked about this briefly. What's crazy about this is, if we're thinking about custody and everything that Ripple has, they already have a full-on foundation in play. But the craziest thing about this is people still fail to see where XRP is, a part of this plan, if you will. If we're thinking about this, everything is integrated with the XRP ledger. We even have here that Ripple custody is integrated with the XRP ledger, which allows any of their customers to have the ability to mint, burn, and manage stablecoins. But also, if we're thinking about the main focus of Ripple custody, it's also built around stablecoins. I mean, or tokenized assets. Even if you think about Ripple custody, right? You go to Ripple custody, you have tokenization up in the top right. It takes you to pretty much an announcement around the XRP ledger being like the home for tokenization. It's kind of crazy to think about this because, again, everyone looks at the stablecoin part of the market and they're like, oh, well, you know what? This kind of replaced XRP. We don't even need XRP. No, it supports XRP. Everything that Ripple has been doing supports XRP. That's why when we think about these markets, right, the tokenization of global liquid assets are estimated to be a $16 trillion market. RizXRP posted this, and what's crazy about this is $16 trillion is just the starting point. Like today, when we think about tokenized RWAs on chain, public networks have about almost $4 billion tied to them. The tokenization market itself is almost that $30 billion. We're just getting started. This is just the starting point. This value will rise drastically. This will 10x. It will 100x. It will even 1000x from where it's at today. This will lead to a lot of these, networks that are extremely dominant within this space being worth trillions of dollars. People cannot fathom the idea of a project like XRP having a $1 trillion market cap, but we're okay justifying Bitcoin having a $2+ trillion market cap. It makes no sense to me at a time where we are literally witnessing billions of dollars getting tokenized, and this tokenized value is not just going to sit on chain, right? You're going to have this traded 24/7, 365, borrowed against lent. I mean, use cases like the one that we just saw with Fort Stock. This is just a starting point. This is just one of, over 1,000+ use cases that are possible on these networks. This is why when we hear from players like Larry Fink from BlackRock telling us that everything is going to be tokenized, it's already happening. We have stocks now getting tokenized. We have US Treasuries now tokenized. We have global bonds now tokenized. This is seriously just the beginning. XRP will be worth $1 trillion in market cap. I think that's, that should be something that we already know about. Right? That's inevitable. But the thing is, $1 trillion is not the stopping point, right? That's just the beginning. We're still so early in this market. I think that the value tied back to these networks is that proof, right? And again, with more and more amendments like the MPT standard launching on the XRP ledger, just shows us that the network is going to constantly go through upgrades. We're going to constantly see things like this added that really kind of break down barriers to entry on the XRP ledger from the institutional side, which is the path, if you will, to trillions of dollars living on the XRP ledger. I'm very excited about this. I'm definitely locked in on this. I think everyone should be paying attention to the MPT announcement because, again, we're just waiting on this patiently. We're already seeing some use of this in demo mode. I think that this is proof that we will start to see the MPT standard get, added to the XRP ledger within the next couple months. And once that does get added, this is going to wake up the XRP ledger in a huge way around tokenized RWAs flooding onto it. I really do believe that. And yeah, this is something that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.